time for the final word in sports all across the state. You're listening to Sports Talk with your hosts, Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. You've been waiting all day, so join the show now by calling 800-956-7266.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, here on a Thursday night from downtown Columbia. Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, Professor Tom Hayes. Good to be with you once again as we head towards the latter part of the week and we prepare to send off the Clemson Tigers to Cali for the final stages of their preparation for the national championship game on Monday night. They will play without the suspended three. Dan Radakovich, a statement today that the appeals process is ongoing. They have filed for an appeal for the three, but the appeal has not been acted upon, and thus the three remain suspended. No Dexter Lawrence. In particular, he'd be the one that would be most notable by his absence. So Galloway can help him out some at tight end. I wouldn't expect Yellow to play very much at all. So the appeal situation will carry forward after this ball game. The attorneys for the players working with the university all coming together to make their appeal. Though you got to wonder, guys, with Lawrence, maybe he wants an appeal to clear his name, but you got to believe that this would be the catalyst for him to go ahead and move on to the NFL.
I think he's played his last down for Clemson, and that's a sad thing. It's a sad way for it to end for him because, again, like you said, you probably want the clarity of the fact that your name was cleared, but I don't know if that's going to come in time in order for him to get to the point where he needs to make a drop-dead decision about the National Football League. And given where he is projected, that is the sole motivator right now, given that, in accordance with the fact that he might not play all of next season because of a year-long suspension. That really is the only decision that he needs to make. The one thing that hurts for the other two guys is that they have the rest of their careers. Gael with one more year. Again, he was a backup contributor. He was somebody who didn't necessarily play in a lot of meaningful snaps, but certainly was a depth guy for them on the offensive line and might have been called on to possibly do that next year. And Galloway, who factored to be a big part of the offense with the graduation of Mylan Richard and a couple of other tight end guys moving on. He was supposed to be basically Clemson's future at that position. I found it rather odd when they said last week and lead up to the Cotton Bowl that they were going to try to get an appeal in place in order to get them ready for this game, or at least get them available for this game, because as you know, everything the NCAA does is at a glacial pace, and it just seemed, I would almost seem that it was, I would say, way too optimistic and almost unrealistically optimistic that they were going to be able to be cleared in time for this game Monday.
Well, as soon as I heard they were suspended the first time, I said there's no way they're going to play in either game. I just knew that was going to happen, because I think one of the NCAA's punishments is to hang you up on a clothesline and watch you swing in the wind while they make no decision. I think that's part of the punishment they give you. Now, if you're Lawrence, this is one of the adult decisions you have to make. Obviously, when you go into the NFL, you're going to do something you don't want to do. And there are going to be teams that ask you, sign this, will you? And we want to drug test you every hour on the hour. Or, and I know I'm exaggerating when I say that, but that's going to be some of the things you'll have to hear or find out about, and just bite the bullet and go on with your career. This is an accident. Go on and just deal with it.
And again, I know that we've had all of the stuff back and forth from the two fan bases. We've talked about that ad nauseum, and it really is just, again, a sad commentary on the fact that this has kind of become a sideshow, basically, to a game where I think that this could be and have the makings of probably the best college football playoff game that we've had of these four, and maybe the best championship game we've had, at least since we started playing these at the BCS era. I think Texas Southern Cal is the only one that might hold the candle to it, at least for the preamble and pre-up when it comes to these two games.
Hard to top 2016. High scoring. Alabama scores with 2 minutes to go. Clemson gets the ball with the great Deshaun Watson. He goes down the field. They score with 1 second to go. hard to top that. If they can top that finish, then you're right. So we'll wait and see what happens. I think it does have all the makings of a great game with or without Dexter Lawrence. And tonight, we'll break it down further for you. We have the coach and the quarterback. Yes, they're coming back for an encore. We just can't get rid of them. They're like a fungus, just hard to get rid of. They'll be here at the bottom of the hour. Steve Tannehill, whose record for touchdowns in a season at South Carolina remains in place for another year. I wonder somewhat happy about that, to the degree that, I mean, he would have been happy if Bentley had thrown, what did he need, 3 touchdown passes to break it? Mm-hmm. He would have been happy with that, and the Gamecocks had won, but turned out not to be the case.
He would have been happy if they at least scored a touchdown.
A point.
Anything.
Mike Morgan will be with us after 7 o'clock, get his thoughts on the bowl season. And, of course, we open up SEC and ACC basketball play. There's been a little bit of play in the ACC, but the bulk of it now starts this weekend. Clemson gets to go to Duke and have a reunion with Mr. Williamson, and South Carolina will be opening up down at Florida. 2 tough situations there. Tonight, the USC women, they play at Texas A&M. USC women ranked 23. The A&M women are ranked 21. But Dawn Staley said this week her team now is as healthy as it has been all season long, so she's feeling pretty good about it.
And, of course, right now, the Under Armour game going on right now, South Carolina signee, the All-America game, Zach Pickens is playing on the field right now for Team Ballaholics against Team Flash. That is taking place currently as we speak on ESPN2, so we're keeping an eye at least on him. He's the only guy, at least of the signees, who is in that football game.
Speaking of the such, we are expected to talk with Ryan Helinski tonight at the All-American Bowl out in San Antonio. He confirmed with me that he would be good to go for a visit with us tonight. I'm still trying to confirm a time for him in hour number 2. Of course, he is looking forward to showing off his skills with some of the best players in the country. And then next week, coming to Columbia and beginning his quest to help the Gamecock football team in some form or fashion in 2019. And this is going to be every bit as interesting to watch as what happened at Clemson last January, into a spring practice, into the summer, into August, and into the season with Kelly Bryant and Trevor Lawrence.
I don't know if it's going to be as interesting, because I don't think that I don't think there's any hope that there's another quarterback who starts on the first day than there is for Jake Bentley. I think Jake Bentley is going to be your starter against North Carolina. And quite honestly, while the Lawrence Bryant thing does have some parallels here with Helinski and Bentley, I think that Helinski is coming in with a steeper learning curve to this position. And I also think that from Bentley's standpoint, I think Bentley will show out better with the pressure of Helinski than Bryant did with the pressure from Lawrence. Because I think you knew about the otherworldly talent of Trevor Lawrence. I'm not saying that Helinski is so much of a project, but in my mind, I still think that if you're Will Muschamp probably handles this a lot differently than Dabo Swinney would. I think that while they want to give Helinski some time, I do think this is still Jake Bentley's team and his job.
Well, the difficult thing is, let's face it.
Provided that he decides to come back.
Let's face it, Clemson is a dominant team in the ACC. South Carolina is not dominant in the SEC. And so you got to be very, very careful when you're dealing with a young quarterback of dealing with confidence levels. Because if you throw a rookie out there into the breach, into the SEC first year, and he gets beaten up, you can destroy a guy's confidence very, very
Didn't hurt
quickly.
Matthew Stafford. Ryan Helinski's not coming to South Carolina to sit on the bench. He's not coming to South Carolina to redshirt. I think it will be interesting to watch the competition in the spring. In fact, I think one of the most important parts of this competition is that there will be competition for Jake Bentley, something that he really hasn't had in his time at South Carolina, somebody who can come in as a throwing quarterback and push him to be better. To be a better quarterback. I think people can see that there's still things in Bentley's game that can stand to be improved upon, and this could be the guy to do it. And if Muschamp and the offensive staff are men of their word, that is, they play the best guy. They play the guy they think they can win with. And if Helinski comes in and lights it up and is the better quarterback, regardless of the age or the seniority of the other guy, just like at Clemson, and Dabo made the move knowing that Trevor Lawrence gave them something extra special on offense, they'll make the move.
If Helinski beats out Bentley, that's a poorer indictment on Bentley in my mind than it is an endorsement of Helinski.
Whatever you want to call it. The better guy's going to play if Muschamp is a man of his word.
It looks worse for Bentley.
And I think Russell Wilson is a better quarterback in the NFL than in college.
This is the place to talk Tigers, Gamecocks, and more. Sports talk across the state on the South Carolina Radio Network.
A lot to get to here. Coach and the quarterback, Mike Morgan, Ryan Helinski, and also you, 800-956-7266. Also, if we have time, we'll put in some more of these Clemson player interviews from yesterday's media day. Clemson back on the practice field today. They practice Wednesday and Thursday in Clemson. They will fly Friday to San Jose's Memorial Airport there. And basically with that cross-country flight, they'll try to get in at least a quick workout beforehand. So they will at least have that practice and then get on the plane. They will practice Saturday and Sunday in Santa Clara. Actually, they'll be in the San Jose State University practice field, while Alabama will get the practice in Palo Alto at Stanford Stadium. They got right of first refusal on that. Don't necessarily know how that, at least logistics-wise. Again, can I just say something? I just really hate that this is a venue for a college football playoff national championship. It is the stupidest thing that we've seen from them. It's just logistically impossible, and it's not good for the game. We're seeing prices for the game going down below $200 for a get-in price, which is absurd for a college football playoff national championship. The flights coming out of the American Southeast to San Jose are all over $1,000 to $1,200. Hotels there are $600 a night. It's stupid that they're doing this.
Well, I'm glad that the ticket prices are coming down, because it's absurd to begin with to have a face value of $550. So, you can take a look at that College Football Playoff Committee and everybody else that runs college football, ESPN, et cetera, and maybe you go take a look back and say, we're overpricing this thing no matter where we're playing it. Maybe people are, it's the same.
Last year in Atlanta, the price for Alabama, Georgia was justifiable because of the fact that you had plenty of demand. There's no demand out there.
So, yeah, maybe people are tired. Maybe the Alabama fans are tired. Maybe the Clemson fans are tired. Maybe
it's too much
maybe
money,
the general
Corn.
fan the general football fan is tired of seeing the same 3, 4, 5 teams every year. Maybe, the expense of getting out there is, but you know what? Yeah, for the folks in Atlanta this past year, for the Southeastern teams, that's great. But the idea of the playoff is to move it around. They have the different venues. So if you are, say, Southern Cal, and if you somehow one day make it to the national championship game and it's at the Orange Bowl, if it's in Miami, then your fans are going to have to pay the buck to get across the country. It just happens to be this year that it's San Francisco's time. And they set these things. How many years in advance now are they set with these stadiums for the national championship game in the rotation?
But you mentioned a couple of things. Now, first of all, it's January, and I told you I object to where they're having
it's going to rain
because of the weather. But here's the key. You ask the people in San Francisco, and then you have people in Miami. And then you say, okay, these are the 2 places where we're going to have the championship game. Then you call San Francisco, oops, no Pac-12, no Western team in, you don't get the championship game.
It's forecast for Monday night in Santa Clara, 70% chance of showers and possible showers.
You can't run from the rain anywhere. If you had it in the Southeast,
it's called a dome.
In the dome.
Well, yeah.
If they played at Jerry World or in New Orleans or at Mercedes-Benz or Houston.
They've played them there.
Well, I'm just telling you, that's where you play. Like, this should be 4 places. It should be the Rose Bowl.
That's outdoors.
But it never rains in Los Angeles. Ever.
Just smoke.
Fires.
Let's say smog. That's all you have. Well, Rose Bowl in Pasadena, Jerry World, Mercedes-Benz in Atlanta,
Mercedes-Benz in New Orleans.
And New Orleans. Those are the 4 places it should be.
Yeah, listen,
no Miami, no Los Angeles, no LA Coliseum, no Phoenix. I mean, get done.
They could have it on the moon. We're not going, so it's fine with me. They can play it anywhere. Not sitting out there, don't have to deal with it. For those of you who are traveling out there, you can afford it. Enjoy the trip and make the best out of it. Go down to the San Francisco Wharf, enjoy the seafood, enjoy the sights. I mean, it is a different venue. It's a different stop for the college football fan who can afford to get out there. San Francisco's a cool city.
No, it's garbage.
It's a different nation.
It's a beautiful city, and it's got great sights. You can go into the wine country.
It's an overpriced cesspool of Silicon Valley yuppies.
You can check out Stanford. You can check out Cal Berkeley. Some great college campuses out there. You can go watch the Warriors play.
Are they playing out there?
I'm sure they're going to try it. Maybe they got a game scheduled.
That ticket might be too high.
All right, 800-956-7266 is our number here on Sports Talk. And we told you about the news coming out of Clemson this afternoon. So the 3 guys will not be able to play in this game, though they will be traveling with the team. Wanted to mention also in college basketball tonight, we talked about the South Carolina women opening up SEC play. It's good to have conference play open in all fashions of basketball now. So the USC women playing at Texas A&M, that's a 9 o'clock tip on the SEC network. The Syracuse women play at Clemson tonight. I think that's a 7 o'clock tip.
Yes.
Opening up ACC women's play. Coastal Carolina at Troy, opening up Sun Belt Conference play. The Citadel at Wofford.
Boom.
Big.
There you go.
Really
right
good
there.
game up at Wofford. We'll see. Now, the Citadel has stumbled here a bit of late. They lost to Longwood at home in their last outing. And Furman has lost its last 2 after getting off to that great start. The Paladins are at home tonight to take on Mercer. And so there you go with the game scheduled for tonight involving the state teams.
But see, that game is just it's a lab experiment. I love this, where the Citadel wants to be frenetic and just run up and down the court, fire threes, and Wofford wants to control the tempo. This is a tremendous. I love this kind of matchup. It's a chess match.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great ball game. I'd love to be there. I thought about going up there to watch it, but I'm going to wait till all football is behind us so we can focus.
I want to skip basketball and go right to spring football.
No. I like basketball in this time of year. Once we get past the championship game, ACC, SEC games, the other conference games, Southern Conference looks like it's going to have a great year.
I'm becoming a true.
And college basketball is indeed a great sport when you get down to the meaningful games. And now we're finally getting into the meaningful games.
I'm becoming a true South Carolinian. I'm just not embracing basketball.
Okay,
you're not going to embrace it. That's the logic that's got Zion Williamson at Duke instead of one of the state schools.
ACC tournament in Charlotte this year, and you can sit here and watch it on television.
This is a bit, Corn. This is a bit.
Oh, is that what that was? That wasn't being true?
No, that was a bit.
All right. So as far as
just like you saying you want Georgia in the national championship.
Yeah, somebody mistook that as honesty.
Yeah, somebody took you saying that as serious. I'm like, really?
Hey, let me update a couple of things here. Well, I'll tell you what, before we do that, let's hit the phones, 800-956-7266. Let's go to Michael in Charleston. Michael, welcome into Sports Talk tonight. How are you?
I'm good. I wanted to comment on Santa Clara as a season ticket holder at Clemson. I think by putting it in Santa Clara, they really are going to get rid of the collegiate feel to that game. I mean, I just don't think the people that I know, and you talked about, well, people can afford to go. I mean, a couple of surgeons that I know, and they're like, look, man, we're not going out there. It takes 3 days. You got to dedicate $1,000 to fly out there and stay. I don't know really anybody personally that's going, and I've got a wide array of contacts. I think what you're going to have is, and you watch the ticket prices plummet out there, I think that sort of is an indicator, sort of the canary in the mine shaft. They should have put it somewhere else. You could have put it at the Coliseum. You could have put it somewhere more accessible. Santa Clara, I mean, it's an hour south of San Francisco. It's going to be interesting to see what the crowd looks like at that game.
But they don't know when they set the spots. I mean, they don't know where the teams are going to come from. I mean, you can sit back and speculate. Yeah, it's going to be Alabama, Clemson, but it could very easily have been.
No, it couldn't.
Yeah, it could have been somebody else. I mean, Oklahoma could have pulled off the upset. Notre Dame could have pulled off the upset. Let's just say Washington had another great year and somehow made it to the championship game. The odds are that the teams right now are coming from this part of the country, but they can't do that as a committee. They can't afford to set every game. They want this to be a national event, not a Southeastern event.
But here's the problem.
And so that's how they're going to do it. They're going to set it at places all around the country.
The venue is
Plus, these venues are bidding. It was a bidding process that landed these sites. So the folks who made the bid out in San Francisco put down the most cash.
This is a poor venue for sports in general. 49ers games are empty. Pac-12 championship games are envy. Nobody likes this venue. You should have basically told them, your money's no good here.
I think the 49ers aren't drawing because the 49ers stink. When they become good again, if they do, they'll pack that stadium. It's a beautiful stadium to watch it on television.
Yeah, and it's in the middle of nowhere.
Well, they'll build up around it.
All barbecue is good, but some is better than others.
I thought you would say
Just
Kansas
like all
City was
sportscasters
best.
are good, but some are better than others.
That's not
Kansas City barbecue.
also.
San Francisco barbecue, I hear, is great.
San
This
Francisco
time of
couldn't
year.
barbecue anything other than rice or
All right, let's welcome into a Sports Talk by a popular demand for an encore performance. These guys who just can't get rid of them. It's the coach and the quarterback here on Sports Talk, Coach Chuck Reedy. Happy New Year. Good to have you with us once again. How are you, sir?
Doing great, Phil. Happy New Year to you, and good to be with you.
Thank you so much. The quarterback, Steve Tannehill. The record still stands for another year. Welcome. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you guys.
You thought maybe he'd throw at least 2 touchdown passes in that game, didn't you?
I was broke after the first half of the Akron game, and it hung in there again. So I think we're at 23 years, 24 years.
Yeah. But who's counting? Who's counting? Before we get to the national championship game, guys, let's look back at the bowl games here just passed. Let's begin with Clemson in the Cotton Bowl, Chuck, and great performance by the Tigers. Really not anything that you can pick on there. Complete domination of Notre Dame.
Yeah, they're very, very dominant. I don't. What I didn't understand, Notre Dame, at the beginning of the ball game, they were blitzing Lawrence and had some success doing that, and then it seemed like they just got away from that. And if you give him time, he's going to find somebody. And the thing that they've got, and we can get into it a little bit, Ross and Higgins, those guys, they're 6'4", 6'5". They're matchup nightmares. And, you just get the ball up anywhere around them. And, which he certainly can do if he has time. They're going to be hard for anybody to defend.
Yeah, tough matchup for just about any corners in the country. But, boy, Steve, Alabama's got some players back there in the secondary, Surtain and highly recruited guys. You think Alabama's secondary is quality enough to match up with Clemson's receivers and allow their defensive front and linebackers to put pressure on Lawrence?
I think it comes down to the pressure that you can put. And you got to do some things over there that, confuse the quarterback. You can't let him sit back there, 4 seconds. And I agree with Coach that they just have matchup issues everywhere. I think Clemson's key. Clemson just took Notre Dame out of their game so fast, and Notre Dame can never get anything going. And then you had, the Ross, the wideout. All of a sudden, he steps his game way up, and he's got a lot of weapons. But I think these days, we're playing in a game generated by quarterbacks, and both teams have very good ones. It's the ones that you can confuse a little bit or pressure, and same in the NFL game. And Alabama's got to put pressure on Lawrence. If they give him time, he can find some options. Clemson's very good at wide receiver, and Clemson also has the running game. I mean, that's the thing. I don't know that Clemson will be able to run the ball all that well against Alabama's front, but if they don't put pressure on Lawrence, he can make plays. He's awful good for a youngster.
Steve Tannehill, Chuck Reedy joining us. It's Coach of the QB here on Sports Talk, our usual Thursday staple. All right, Steve, you alluded to it briefly at the beginning of the segment, whether it was punch drunk or disinterest or the injuries. I mean, how do you explain what we saw out of the Gamecocks in Charlotte last Saturday?
I don't know how to explain what they did on offense. I have no idea. It wasn't very good. I tell you this, what confuses me a little bit is, Kentucky's out there and has the number one defensive player in the country, and he's out in that bowl game playing his tail off, and he's maybe the number one pick, maybe the third pick, and he's out there, and these guys that don't want to play in a bowl game, it hurts their team, and Debo not playing for whatever reason hurt our offense, and we didn't play very good. I don't think, really, you look at the last two bowl games Carolina's played last year and this year, we've played good offense for 2 quarters out of 8. And I mean, last year Michigan gave us the bowl game with the turnovers in the second half, but it was awful in the first half. And not being able to score any points is as a fan and former player, it's tough. It's just I just can't understand why it happened. And to hear someone say that we weren't interested, boy, that hurts all us competitors. Someone that would just like to play the game, not interested. Same thing with Georgia in their bowl game. Oh, they weren't interested. I mean, it's a football game.
Yeah.
If you're a football player, you go play. I mean, it doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah, I want to give Virginia some credit because I thought South Carolina came in to play a football game, Steve, but Virginia came in to make a statement because here's a team that looks like they're on the cusp of making a turn, but they've lost to their rival 15 years in a row. And they said, we're going to exact a pound of flesh on somebody before this season is over. And I thought Casey Crosby said it best. I know I'm paraphrasing, but he said they jumped on us quick and they wouldn't let us go.
Well, I mean, they looked like they wanted to be there, and that's the sign of competitors in the locker room, guys that just enjoy the game of football. And I actually think Carolina's defense played okay. For all the injuries we had, they were on the field the whole game. But I thought the defense really played okay. I said it last week on this show. I thought we needed to score, 30-some points to win. If we score 30, maybe we do win. But it's like I said, it's tough to sit here and be a fan, and you want them to win and play good. And I know it's the Belt Bowl, but it doesn't matter. It's a game, and we go out there and throw a donut, and our rival up the road is playing for a national championship. It's tough to handle as like I said, as a former player and alumni, and now just a fan.
Yeah, and it looks like they could be playing for more championships in the future. It's the coach and the quarterback here on Sports Talk. So, Chuck, while we're on this subject, let me ask you, because I mean, back in your day, everything was different in terms of your coaching days, and you played for a national championship in the Orange Bowl. But back then, the games on New Year's Day, multiple games meant things. Now, today, with the setup, of course, only 3 games mean anything when it comes to the postseason, because you're trying to whittle it down and get to that national championship game. So, like when you see where DeAndre Baker took him out of the Georgia game in the Sugar Bowl, all right, one of the traditional great moments and games in college football. And we hear Georgia fans and others say, well, Georgia just didn't care about being there, and that's why their performance. And you're talking about South Carolina and Virginia. Look, I went back and watched it last night. You could see the Virginia guys jumping up and down on the sideline, all excited. Maybe if South Carolina had played better and made some things happen, their guys would have jumped up and down. But the question is, where are we going here with postseason football now? Where are we going to go with this, with more and more kids deciding I'm not going to waste my time playing in these games? They think it's, not beneficial to them. And then when you have a loser, it's because they just didn't want to be there.
Well, bowl games, unless you're playing for the championship, Steve kind of alluded to this a little bit, but it always goes back to the team that is the most excited about being there. And, obviously Texas was more excited than Georgia was. Obviously Virginia was more excited about being there than Carolina. How do you explain that? I don't know. Maybe Georgia, thought they should have been in the playoff, but, that's no excuse. But, the bottom line is, it may not have meant much to South Carolina, but it meant a heck of a lot to Virginia.
Yeah.
And they're damn excited about it. And so is Texas.
But South Carolina,
so is Baylor. I mean,
hang on. We'll come back. I'll say this real quick. South Carolina is not a program in position to take a bowl game for granted.
Well, you're not disagreeing about that.
All right, be right back.
Now back to Sports Talk, South Carolina's most listened to sports talk show for more than 30 years.
All right, back with the coach and the quarterback. And Chuck, sorry, had to jump in there. I wanted you to have a chance to finish your answer. What I was saying was, I mean, look, South Carolina has been in 23 bowl games in its history. So the Gamecocks should not be in a position to take any bowl appearance for granted and not approach one with all the intensity and the focus that they can muster.
Oh, I totally agree with that. I mean, I don't have an explanation for it. All I'm saying is that, you know, that you in the bowl, in all the bowl games, and this has always been the case, it's the team that really is excited about being there. Obviously, Virginia was a lot more excited about being there than Carolina was. Why? I'm sure Muschamp doesn't have an answer for that. You know, I don't know. I mean, but obviously they weren't very motivated to be there or to play or whatever. And when I say they, I'm talking as a team. Obviously, some of them played well and were motivated, but certainly as a football team, they weren't.
Spinning it forward, guys, Clemson playing in the national championship a couple of days from now. Monday night, they'll play Alabama in Santa Clara, a poor venue in my opinion. But independent of that, Chuck, looking at this game, what is unique about this game as opposed to the previous three we've seen between these two teams?
Well, I don't know that there's a whole lot different, unique. I mean, they're the two best programs in the country, you know, bar none. I mean, there's no doubt about that. And, you know, and they're very similar in a lot of ways. The difference between this year and last year is the quarterback at Clemson. You know, last year, you know, obviously, you know, Kelly Bryant, you know, could not beat Alabama throwing the football. And Alabama knew that, and you know, and they took advantage of that. That's not the case this year. Give Dabo credit for knowing early on that Lawrence was the guy that could take them to the championship, whereas Kelly Bryant probably wasn't. And you know, they made the change, and it's made all the difference in the world. And you know, and I think that gives Clemson, you know, a great chance to win the football game.
Now, the key point to Alabama, Coach, is the fact that while they have a throwing quarterback, they can also run clock on you. So I'm not so certain what type of game plan. If you're Alabama, what do you play? You got a quarterback who loves to throw it all over the lot in Clemson, but he's not as mobile as some of those quarterbacks that give Alabama a lot of trouble. So does Alabama cut his rhythm by playing keep away as long as they can, using that big offensive line and trying to run the football?
Well, they're going to try. They're going to try to run the football, and one thing about them now, they're not going to give up on the run. I mean, you know, they're going to run and run and run. They're not going to get out there and stop running the ball if they get, you know, stopped a few times. You know, they're going to stick with the run, and they'll have some success with the run. But, you know, I mean, they're not going to run the ball up and down the field on Clemson like they have other people. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, it's going to put more pressure, you know, on Tua. You know, I mean, he's going to have to play. He's going to have to play really well. And, you know, I don't know. I just, you know, I think it's a great matchup. But, you know, I think Clemson, psychologically, I think Clemson maybe has the advantage. You know, I think, you know, Wilkins and Farrell and those guys, I mean, you know, they all came back for a number of reasons. It wasn't just, a lot of it had to do with their draft situation, but they came back, you know, and, you know, they're a motivated bunch of guys and I think they're on a mission. And, you know, I don't know, you know, I don't know that Alabama has that same kind of purpose and mission that Clemson is on.
Steve, you of course played quarterback in the SEC, so you look at Tango Vailoa's numbers: about 70% completion, 41 touchdowns to 4 interceptions, and 3,700 yards. I mean, you faced SEC competition. Maybe the competition's greater now than it was back in your day. Who knows? It's all relevant, but Those kind of numbers by a quarterback in the SEC, I mean, what does it tell you about this guy?
His offensive line is awful good. I mean, first and foremost, it tells you how good his offensive line is. But he's got the Blitnikoff winner at wideout, great running game, and by far probably the best O-line in the country. And he is mobile. He's awful good. And Alabama's just tough. They're tough to stop, and this is the first year we've really seen an Alabama team that has, especially a Nick Saban team, that has kind of let the offense go play. And I think it has a lot to do. Normally, Alabama has great running backs and one wideout. This year, they have 3 or 4 wideouts, and they're still good at running the football. So he's awful good, but I really think it comes down to that offensive line. And I honestly, I think Clemson can very easily win the game. But this is a game where big number 90 not playing to slow down some of that Alabama running. And you can say, the backup's pretty good. The backup's not a top 20 pick. He's good. But Alabama, not having the other Lawrence in there on the defensive line, Alabama can probably run the ball a little bit better than they could if he was in there. So, but I really think, to be honest, and I'm a Carolina guy, but I kind of think Clemson wins. I just don't see. I mean, they're so good everywhere. Their defensive backs maybe are the weakness, but what they did to Notre Dame was very impressive.
Yeah. All right. Before we let you guys go, one more thing. Swinging it back to Carolina, Steve, with you, and I think Chuck. With the new quarterback, Helinski, and we're going to have him on the show here in the next hour from the Army All-American game, the All-American Bowl. So what do you foresee competition-wise, Steve, in the spring with Helinski and with Bentley? You think Muschamp gives the freshman a full shot at things and see if he is indeed the guy who can take them to the next level, just like it happened at Clemson this past year?
I think he gets an opportunity to compete. But I don't think Coach Bentley doesn't take the Auburn job if, Jake Bentley's not a starting quarterback. I think it has, that's kind of strange to me how all that went down. But right now, honestly, Jake had a good year, man. Take away the bowl game in the second half against Akron, he played his butt off in those last 5 games, he's rated fairly decent with NFL scouts. So I think it's a little different situation than what happened in Clemson last year. I think it'll be hard for Helinski to beat out Jake, but I think he gets a fair shot. I don't think he would come here, with all the offers he had if he didn't get a fair shot. But I think Jake's our starter, and again, I'm a Jake Bentley fan. I think he's an awful good quarterback, and I think he's our guy next year, no question.
Chuck, you concur?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I don't think unless he, signed to Carolina thinking he was going to come in and be the starting quarterback. I think, he understands. I mean, Bentley's the guy, and let's make it real clear now. Helinski is a highly rated guy. Lawrence is a once in a generation guy. I mean, they're two different animals now, and
what I was trying to say.
I mean, so but surely the guy, obviously will be able to compete. And the question is, where's Joyner going to fit into all this? Is he going to move? Are they going to get a package for him? I mean, here's a guy that was Mr. Football and a highly rated guy. I mean, you just don't hear much about him.
Indeed. Once again, we thank you two guys. Yeoman's work with us, a little extra bonus for the listeners, and we all appreciate it and appreciate your insight. Have a great week, a great national championship game Monday night. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Phil.
Thank you. Thank you.
Carolina fans want to compare their situation to Clemson's last year. They're not the same situation.
No.
Well, we'll see. We'll see how it works out. We'll talk with Ryan Helinski coming up here at 20 minutes past the hour and get his thoughts on how his All-American week has gone. Coming up in hour 2.
Round 2 of Sports Talk up next with your hosts Phil Kornblut, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. Don't leave us hanging. Join the show, 800-956-7266.
A busy Thursday night here on Sports Talk. Glad you're with us. Phil Kornblut, Professor Tom Hayes, Will Pelagic, Brian Leonard from our studios in beautiful, wild, and wonderful and warm downtown Columbia. I can live. If that's all the winter we're going to have, ladies and gentlemen, I'm good with it.
Mother Nature just heard you, and she's got some tricks up her sleeve.
I need less rain is what I need.
Well, that's true. We could use some drying time, but I do like the temperatures. Mike Morgan coming up in just a moment.
I haven't seen the sun since I got back from Texas.
You brought the clouds with you.
Mm-hmm.
Recruiting. I know Mike always likes to be on hold when we do recruiting so he can catch up. So we tell you about linebacker Mohammed Kaba, 6'3", Clinton, North Carolina. USC just offered Virginia, Wake Forest, North Carolina, Vandy, NC State, East Carolina, and Duke. Still learning about the Gamecocks. Was excited to get the news. He's going to visit on the 19th. Also hearing from Clemson, going to visit there on the 26th. USC also offered 2020 defensive end Macias Scott, Gainesville, Georgia, and 2020 corner Devontae Nelson of Memphis. Cornerback Chris Steele, Bellflower Cal, told Ryan Young of Southern Cal's rival site that USC, the Gamecocks, no longer under consideration. He will announce Saturday at the All-American Bowl. That leaves Southern Cal, Florida, UCLA, Oregon, Oklahoma on his short list. In the article, he said he thinks everyone will be shocked, quote unquote, by his decision. He did not sign a letter of intent in December. He did sign financial aid papers with 3. 2020 receiver Jalen Coit of Cheraw, offered by Virginia. He's got Purdue, Kansas, Duke, Indiana, Wake Forest, and App State as well. Basketball, Clemson in the market for a 2020 point guard. They're going to need some point guards with Shelton Mitchell departing. Only one true point guard will be in the program, and that's Alamir Dawes. 5'11", Davon Smith, Loganville, Georgia, recently offered by the Tigers. He said Coach Brownell, Coach Dean, they were at his game last week. Off of that, they offered him. They look forward to having him on campus soon. Georgia, Florida, Georgia Tech, Wichita State, Miami, Mississippi State, Xavier, and others are on his offer list.
And also, Shiloh Sanders, Gamecock target, who's playing currently in the Under Armour All-America game, said during a televised portion of Under Armour All-American practices that the Gamecocks are, quote, his favorite at the moment.
Well, they've recruited him hard, and they've been on him for a while. That's Deion's son. If I remember correctly, he's been to Colorado State. He's been to USC. He's going to visit Tennessee coming up in January. I mean, the Gamecocks are constantly looking to upgrade at corner and the secondary in general.
He's going to give his dad's alma mater a courtesy visit, isn't he? Florida State.
Well, he's talked about it, but nothing is in stone there. All right, there you go with recruiting, and you can check it out on our website, as Mike Morgan does regularly. Our website, SportsTalkSC.com. On Twitter, use the hashtag #STRecruiting. And don't forget, the recruiting podcast. We'll do a new one. Maybe we'll do one tonight. Put the recruiting podcast out there for you so you can sit back and listen to 15, 20 minutes of uninterrupted recruiting bliss.
Mike Morgan's report brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union, foundersfcu.com/mortgage, and by BP Skinner Clothiers in the Vista. No matter where you are, Brett Skinner will come to you for the best in suits, shirts, pants, shoes, and more. Visit bpskinnerclothiers.com to set up an appointment.
All right, Mike Morgan on the move with us here on Sports Talk, transitioning from the football booth to the basketball sideline. And you get excited when you go from football to basketball. I mean, I know you enjoy both of them, but you prefer one over the other just in terms of your personal enjoyment?
I get asked that question a lot. I really love both. I would throw in baseball as well. And I've always said that there's not another sport I really have an interest in calling. I remember doing some track and field back in the Fox days, and it was fun, but not nearly as enjoyable as the big three. Really, so much of it depends on the game itself and how the game unfolds. I mean, you know, if you're doing the third game of a super regional where every pitch is kind of life or death of those two teams, then that would trump your average run-of-the-mill football game in week 5. But if it's a really good football matchup, then that would trump a basketball game in December and so on and so forth. So love all three, and the answer to that question really depends on the quality of the game and how the game turns out.
Yeah. What do you have this weekend?
I'm at Tennessee, Georgia, Tennessee, the defending SEC champs or co-champs along with Auburn. It's kind of full circle. The last regular season game I had a year ago was when Tennessee clinched the SEC crown by defeating Georgia on the final day of the regular season. We were there to broadcast that in front of a sellout crowd at Thompson Bowling, and we'll be in front of a sellout crowd at Thompson Bowling for the conference opener for Rick Barnes and company, who will come in with a number 3 national ranking and all kinds of expectations. Really have an incredible appreciation for what he has done, because I remember doing some of those games when he first took over that job, and it was a complete rebuild. So to see where that program has gone from then to now really gives you an appreciation, and I just have a lot of respect for what he's been able to do.
All right, Mike, I'll ask this about as open-ended as I possibly can. What is your read on Clemson, Alabama, Monday night in Santa Clara?
Well, my read is, first of all, college football desperately could use a good game Monday night. This has been a less than stellar season. I think everybody that's on your show and everybody listening is a fan of college football. We're going to love it regardless. We're not going to abandon the sport, even if TV ratings are down or attendance is down or whatever the case may be. That being said, it's been the most predictable and somewhat stale season I can recall. We've been talking about the same 2 teams since August, Alabama and Clemson. We didn't have the normal array of upsets in the regular season. We had 2 really lackluster semifinal games. The bowl season as a whole came and went, and I can't say left its mark. So this needs to be a big-time game, and I actually think it will be. I think it's a game that comes down to the final 5 minutes. Clemson and Georgia were the only 2 teams I thought all year long that actually could beat Alabama. I still feel that way. I think the line is where it should be, right around 5.5. If both things are equal in terms of talent, and I think they're pretty close, why would you not give Alabama an edge? Because it's the Saban Alabama factor. They don't lose many of those. Of course, the last one they did was to Deshaun Watson at Clemson. So I really want to see, I think Alabama and Nick Saban, typically, they're not going to let you just gash them on the ground. So ETN, as good as he is, I can't see him just piling up 100, 150 yards. They're going to make Trevor Lawrence beat him. And I think Trevor Lawrence is going to have to be special for Clemson to win the game. And I certainly think he has the ability to do so. That, to me, is the most intriguing part of the game.
Well, we're going to switch you back to basketball for a moment, because you talked about Tennessee. And I think all this pre-conference season we've been saying, you look at the teams and you got to reel off the top of your head, Tennessee, Auburn, Mississippi State. But were you as shocked as I was to watch the poise of, again, young Kentucky team and beating North Carolina before Christmas? I thought that was a shock to me.
It was surprising. It's hard for me to go to the word shocking only from the standpoint is that the talent is there, but they certainly were not looking like a well-oiled machine for much of November and December, and a lot of that comes with that youth. We know North Carolina has a good team this year. So, yeah, I was surprised. I thought North Carolina would win the game. Kentucky winning it convincingly definitely was a good win for the SEC in an out-of-conference affair. And I think it's a little bit scary for a lot of teams in the Southeastern Conference that were kind of hoping that Kentucky just wouldn't be able to get it together this year. At some point, there's enough talent there where they can certainly be a force again in the SEC, along with Tennessee, along with Auburn, along with Mississippi State. So if you were sleeping on the Wildcats, you certainly weren't after that result.
All right, Mike is with us. Mike Morgan on the move. Going to hold him over for a couple of more minutes and then hook up with Ryan Holinsky. Want to get with Mike a little bit more on the championship game Monday, and also peer ahead to the start of SEC play with the Gamecocks, Florida, and the Tigers and Duke on Saturday. Get his thoughts on those matchups. We'll be back here on Sports Talk in a moment. Still to come, Ryan Holinsky, the money coach, and a little bit more with Mike Morgan on the move here on Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network.
This is the place to talk Tigers, Gamecocks, and more. Sports talk across the state on the South Carolina Radio Network.
Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. As we continue here, we're going to finish up here with Mike Morgan. Also get ready to hear from Ryan Holinsky. It's obviously been a fun topic to talk about him and talk with him over the course of the last couple of months as he begins the process of getting ready to come to Carolina, of course, preparing for the U.S. Army All-America game in San Antonio.
Mike Morgan back with us for a couple of more minutes. So just to wrap up the national championship game, Clemson and Alabama on Monday night. Everybody talking about Trevor Lawrence and what he can do at quarterback, Tango Vailoa, what he can do at quarterback. I mean, two guys that hardly ever throw an incompletion, almost never throw an interception. Are they just going to strip these two defensive naked with their arms and pick them apart? These are two very proud defenses with, I bet you if you took the top 11 on these two defenses, you probably would have a half dozen first-round draft picks between them. Are they going to just get diced up by these quarterbacks?
Yeah, that might even be a conservative number. The half dozen might be closer to 8, 9.
Mm-hmm.
But you bring up a good point. The thing is, I mean, when you go back to the shootout they had last time, how many first-round draft picks were on those two defenses? One thing about college football that's definitely unique to the NFL is that even if you are just loaded with talent on defense, the offenses in college football are always the elite offenses, I should say, which obviously that's what we're dealing with here with these two, are always a step ahead of the elite defenses. It's rare that we have, when you've got high octane offenses in college football with dynamic, just ridiculously talented quarterbacks, that they are held in check, even by the most dominating defenses. You know, why that is, there could be a number of different factors and reasons on that, but in the college game, that just seems to be the case. So as much as the talent that you allude to that's there on the field with these two defenses, I'd be shocked if this was a game played in a low scoring manner. I don't see this game in the 20s. To me, it comes down to first team of 30 probably picks up the W. I don't see a 20-17 type game. Not a knock on the defenses. I just think the offenses are that good.
All right. And finally, South Carolina going down to Florida, open up SEC play. Clemson going to Duke, open up ACC play. Based on their body of work in the pre-conference part of their schedules, how do you like their chances for a good, if not better than good, conference slate?
Well, I just had Clemson, Carolina, right before the holidays. I guess that was on the 22nd. And just putting those two teams under a microscope, I mean, they're really in two different places. Clemson is such a veteran team with so many guys back from that Sweet 16 team a year ago, that Brad Brownell has a leg up right now in what he can go out there and showcase and not have to worry about teaching as much as just preparing his guys that already know what they're doing. Frank Martin has a situation where I really like his freshman class. I mean, I like Lawson, I like Bryant, but they don't have much to speak of in terms of scoring threats that are sophomores or juniors. Realize Silva's a senior, and the offense sometimes tries to go through him, but I don't consider him an elite scorer by any stretch. So I think Clemson is certainly going to be contending for another NCAA tournament berth. I think Carolina has a lot of work to do, and they've got to figure things out. They're going to have to win games on defense, which we're used to seeing Frank have an elite defense. It's not there yet, but they're going to have games in the SEC this year where they just struggle to score, and they're going to have to overcome that with better defense and rebounding.
All right, Mike, looking forward to following you during the basketball season. I'm sure our paths will cross here in Columbia and elsewhere. Thank you for the visit. We'll talk to you next week.
You got it. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year. Mike Morgan on the move with us here on Sports Talk.
It's continuing our coverage of Clemson heading to the national championship game, taking on Alabama in Santa Clara. We had a chance to catch up with a number of Tiger players yesterday at the Poe Indoor facility on Clemson's campus. They will be in the San Jose area around 4:15 local time, 7:15 our time tomorrow. So they will still get a practice in at Clemson tomorrow. Here's a little bit from Hunter Renfrow, who basically gets ready for his final collegiate game and all the Benjamin Button and old man jokes that come with it.
I mean, I've been hearing it all year. It's not anything new. My teammates have given me a bunch of grief for it, but I'm just ready to have fun this last game. Just to be able to go out there with my teammates and enjoy playing the game of football and enjoy playing with my teammates.
When do you think it'll sink in?
I mean, I'll still be around. I think I'll probably just train around the Clemson area. And so I don't know if it'll really sink in until next year when I'm gone. But because I'll still be around my teammates and stuff like that. But hopefully we can finish it the right way, and it will prolong that feeling a little more.
Have you thought about what pregame will be like sitting in that stadium?
Not really. I think I've kind of made up my mind. I'm gonna be locked in for 4 quarters. I'm definitely going to take the time to appreciate it, but just talking to the guys, it's going to be a whatever it takes mentality, and so we're just going to go out there and go have fun, and I haven't really thought too much about it.
You have a favorite, one of the memes or jokes?
Yeah, the one with me and Danny Ford and the picture of it, that's a pretty good one. I enjoy that one a lot. So.
Do you ever reflect at all about how improbable your whole story is, the rags to riches story, and what you've accomplished? I mean, you're even getting ready to marry the homecoming queen. I mean, it's a pretty perfect story all the way around.
I mean, it's perfect, but it was a lot of work, and it was a lot of I came to school without a scholarship, and so there was a lot of uncertainty. But I've been extremely blessed, and I feel like God's wanted me at Clemson, and I feel like I've obeyed him, and he's been able to bless me through it.
Is there one aspect of this whole thing that's been the most fun? Is there any part of it that stands out the most to you?
I think just having a coach like Coach Swinney has been pretty fun, and Coach Scott, and just our Coach Elliott, our offensive staff. But Coach Swinney is special, and I think I'm going to look back in 15, 20 years, and he'll have a bunch of national championships, and just being a part of this whole journey and just the way he leads has been special for me, and it's going to serve me well whatever I do in life, just to be able to have a leader like that I can look up to and rely on.
Have you seen Alabama now, this being your 4th time seeing them? Are there subtle differences between each of the 4 teams, or is it just all good?
They're all good. I mean, every year they just reload, and I know they have they have a freshman at corner, but they're pretty experienced. They're really good D-line, good linebacker play, and so we're just going to have to focus on playing our best 4 quarters.
What have you learned about playing them over these 4 years?
You can't beat yourself. I mean, they're not going to beat themselves, and so you got to protect the ball, and you have to make competitive play, because you're not going to have a lot of guys run wide open, and so if you don't beat yourself, then you're going to have a chance to go beat them.
Tell me what these numbers mean to you. 22, 212, 4.
That's the stats for Hunter Renfrow against Alabama. 22 catches, 212 yards, 4 touchdowns in 3 previous games.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Pretty good against that defense, against that secondary, especially that first year when he was truly an unknown, a redshirt walk-on. And, boy, Alabama had no idea who he was, and he put 2 touchdowns on the board against that. Against some great defensive back guys who are in the NFL now.
Well, you know, the interesting thing about that is how Nick Saban sees things and dissects a game just tremendously, in that he knew that Hunter Renfrow really hurt him on 2nd, 3rd down and less than 5 yards. So Alabama made sure they weren't in those situations this last year, which took him out of the game.
Well, you know, you go back and look at last year's game and pull up the stats here, but neither team had a good offensive game last year. I mean, Clemson's turnovers hurt them, led to Alabama touchdowns. 24-6 was the final score. But, you know, you go back and look at what Hurts did. He didn't light it up. And, of course, Kelly Bryant didn't have a good game either. Damian Harris had 77 yards. Hurts had 40 yards rushing, 120 yards passing. So neither offense blew it up last year. It's those turnovers that made the difference.
Of course, of all those 22 catches from Renfrow, Clemson fans really only cared about one of them. That was the biggest one.
That's true. That was the one that will live forever in Clemson lore. And we'll be back trying to hook up with Ryan Holinsky, hopefully here after the break.
Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network. Right now, number 14, Syracuse women's basketball leads Clemson 28-22. Of course, later on tonight, the Gamecock women in College Station.
I'm going to watch that game.
I love Texas A&M's women's basketball coach, Gary Blair. One of the
Gary
more
Blair.
fascinating interviews and gentlemen of the game that you could ever go and
Now,
come
Mississippi
across.
State's coach came from there, didn't he? Wasn't he an assistant there at A&M?
I believe that's correct.
Uh-huh.
Want to mention this really quick. Today was the memorial service for Bob Shields, longtime television sports anchor in Columbia, who passed away last week at the age of 59 after a battle with cancer. And it's great seeing everybody. And of course, the family's in mourning, but seems to be doing okay and moving forward. What I wanted to mention, though, tried not to mix business with this, but you can't help it sometimes. Buddy Pugh was there to pay his respects. And so we were just talking to him after everything was over, and he's expecting some kind of announcement to come out of state in the next couple of days about his future, which does appear as if he will be back for 2019. He's actually recruiting and moving forward, like all that's going to happen. So I think you can expect to hear something from state, according to him, coming up here pretty soon, that he'll be back for another year, and that's great.
Such a weird situation, though.
Yeah, it's been very strange how that deal went down.
Well, see, the deal is I've always thought in any coaching situation, it's not always if you want the other coach to leave, who can you get?
Right.
And with, South Carolina State having those financial problems a few years ago, maybe there's no takers right now, and maybe the best architect to rebuild that program is the man who's already there.
All right, Ryan Helinski, we had communicated with him this afternoon about joining us this evening, and he had committed to us to do so, but obviously something has come up. We're not able to hook up with him at this particular point in time, but our good friend Keith Alsep from the Locked on the Gamecocks podcast was in San Antonio today. He actually lives in Texas, so he was in San Antonio and watched practice and talked to Helinski and others, and he has volunteered to step in his stead to give us some of the news from over at the All-American Bowl game. Keith, how you doing?
Hey, Phil, great to be with you, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that my first year at Carolina was in 1983 when Bob Shields was just getting started in the business there, and I was a journalism major at the time, and he was very willing to help a young college kid get started. And I got to talk to him a great deal about the industry, and he was always, very kind and a great guy, and very, sad for him and his family. But what a great guy he was, and, really enjoyed his job. And I think you would agree, a true professional. And so I did want to mention that. And also I heard you guys talking about Buddy Pugh, who another guy I've been fortunate to know, and he's just one of the best there is. And I'm elated that it looks like he'll get to continue his coaching career at South Carolina State.
Yeah, good for him, and see if he can get that record and build that program back up. And one more thing about Bob, I mean, not only was he a great success for 30 years on television, when he decided to step away and go into private business as a funeral director and working for a funeral home. I mean, I'm kind of chuckling under my breath, because who does that? Obviously some people do, but the folks at the church and the ministers, or in the Lutheran church, are they ministers? Are they preachers?
Ministers.
Yeah, those who were leading the service, and knew Bob just were talking about what a great job he did in that role, and how he helped people and dealt with people and made them feel at ease during a time of turmoil. So what's he doing? Oh, yeah. Oh, you got Helinski calling in? Okay. Yeah, go ahead and call him. We'll put him on. So go ahead, Keith, real quick, while we dial up Mr. Helinski, because he just gave us a call. What'd you see today at the camp?
Well, Phil, I got to observe both practices. I was able to interview both Ryan Helinski and Cameron Smith, the two players in the game, going to South Carolina. And quite frankly, talking to the folks that have been there all week and observing today, even with the number of guys there, Ryan Helinski's been the best quarterback at the event the last 2 days. I think he and Spencer Rattler are the top two quarterbacks at the event. They're both on the West team, but Helinski's 6'3.5" in socks, 232 pounds. He makes all the throws. I was standing right behind him, and the ball just makes a different sound when it comes off his hand. He's able to fit balls into tight windows and tight coverage. He can make all the throws, and he was really throwing seeds out there today and was very impressive. But, Phil, the thing about Ryan is it's not just the fact he can make all the throws or he's got NFL measurables. I think it's his intangibles that set him apart. He has an infectious attitude about playing football. He's very passionate. He's a motivator. He's a natural leader, and other guys are drawn to him naturally, and other guys get caught up into what he's feeling, and it elevates their play. And I think that bodes very well for South Carolina with Ryan Holinsky. Also got to spend some time with his family, and it's easy to see that the apple did not fall far from that tree. Just an amazing family, and really enjoyed getting to spend a few minutes with them today. And then in the afternoon practice, I got to see Cameron Smith, saw Chris Steele. Steele is smaller than advertised. He's barely 5'11", I think. But great in man coverage and really strong at the line of scrimmage. But from talking to Barton Simmons and Charles Power and the people that have been there all week and observing today, it's easy to see, Cameron Smith's almost 6'1" in socks. He's got long arms. He's lean. He's got elite speed, agility, and quickness, ability to change direction, really blankets receivers, and probably had some of his most impressive reps against two guys going to Clemson in Miami's Frank Ladson and Folsom, California, Joe Nagata, who I think impressed me more than Jason Hazelwood today. I really like Nagata. So for Clemson fans, they're getting two more guys. I don't know if either one are as good as Ross or T. Higgins, but they're probably in the same area code.
All right, my friend, thanks very much. Thanks for filling in. We make the transition to Ryan Holinsky, who's I know that head is probably blown up now after listening to all that.
I mean, after talking to him, I'm not going to disagree with anything he just said.
You mean about you or the other guys?
About me and Cam Smith. About the other guys, I completely 110% agree.
Yeah,
we'll go with that.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us, and our time is short, so we want to get quickly to your thoughts on how your week has gone out there, and what can Gamecock fans expect to see in the game from you on Saturday.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me join. I'm sorry I was a little late.
It's okay.
We were doing an Adidas event today, customizing some stuff. I got a little Gamecock patches on my jacket, so I'll rep those pregame for sure. But I thought it's been a great week. I came in on Sunday, had a slow start on Monday because we were just doing slow stuff, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, today I blew it up a little bit. Started out ranked fourth, moved up to second. Today I finished first out of all the quarterbacks. It's out on Twitter, so that was good to see. Felt really good. It's cool to see the improvement on each day with all of these receivers, because, I haven't thrown to any of these guys while the other quarterbacks, I've thrown to them because they're from their high schools or, they're going to the same college. But it's been a great week. I mean, it's something you dream about. And I'm super excited to showcase a couple plays that I got up my sleeve on Saturday for sure. And I'm excited for Gamecock Nation to be watching and tuning in, because they're going to be some pretty cool plays. I'm not going to lie to you, but I just can't give two away in case the East is listening.
All right, hang on. We got to hit a quick break. If you got time to hang with us?
Absolutely.
All right, great. We'll come back to you after the break and hear a little more about what your plans are for the game, how quickly you'll be in, maybe at the start, maybe rotated in quickly, and your thoughts about getting to Columbia, I guess, next week. Ryan Holinsky here with us, and then the Money Coach to follow here in our final segment of Sports Talk on a Thursday night.
These guys, they never sleep. Check them out on the web at SportsTalkSC.com. Now, more of Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network.
All right, back with Ryan Helinski for a couple of more minutes. So do you know yet if you will trot out with the starters, or will that be learned later?
Yeah, I don't know yet. It's kind of up for grabs right now. You know, me and Spencer have been going back and forth the whole week. You know, yesterday I was ranked second. Today I was ranked first. So we'll see how it goes. But I know when I get in there, I'll make the best of my opportunities for sure.
So you know the way these All-Star games go, Ryan, they're very much tailored to offense, but what has it been like competing against the defenses? Because I'm sure that the defensive and offensive practices are probably where you get the most work and the most resistance, I guess you would say.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's awesome going against the best of the best, because it really shows you how truly good you are and how truly you deserve to be where you are, you know. And I think during 7-on-7, you know, I've been doing really good, throwing a lot of good balls. Defensive backs are giving me all I can handle. You know, they're switching between different coverages, showing different bluffs, but it's been a good week that way. But definitely when you get in the team and you get those defensive linemen involved, you know, you got to get that ball out quick. And it's just testing me for the SEC, and it's really been a good test this whole week, but I'm super excited about the opportunity Saturday.
All right, so your pal Chris Steele told Southern Cal's Rivals reporter that South Carolina's out when it comes to his decision on Saturday. Did that surprise you?
I actually talked to Chris at the beginning of the week. I sat down with him. I was like, yo, what is it going to take to get you here? And I talked to him. It's just a story between me and him that I'd have to keep personal between us.
Yeah.
And he just said, you know, it's just, I can't. There's something that just wasn't right. And so I was like, I respect it, dude. You do whatever you, but if he goes to another school in the SEC, all I know is we're going to attack his way every time. That's all I got to say.
You're going to go right at him, huh?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. With our guys, and we got Cam Smith, we'll be all right.
Now, what is your plan after this game as far as getting to Columbia and getting yourself started here with South Carolina?
Yeah, so after this game, I leave the night after, the morning after, and I get there, enroll, do all the stuff with my dorms, all of that, and then I start classes, I believe, on the 10th, I want to say, or the 9th, and then I start lifting and running with Coach Dillman on the 10th. So I'm getting right into it once I get there. Playbook's already down. I just got to get into shape and stuff now.
Did you have any communication with the team about kind of what happened this past weekend? I know that had to be disappointing for you.
Yeah, it definitely hurt, for sure, as I'm sure it hurt a lot of other people, for sure. But I talked to Coach Warner yesterday for about 40 minutes, talking about what they could have done better, you know, what they could have done in the red zone differently, stuff like that. But we also were optimistic about the future and, you know, the opportunity for guys to come in and step in. And he's super excited. He knows he's going to be on a boat watching the All-American game, he told me. So he's going to be living the life. And then once I get to town, we're going to get right back to work. So we're not worried about it. I mean, of course, we're worried about it, but now we're looking towards the future and just making sure that never happens again.
All right. Well, you know, unless you talk to reporters tomorrow after the game, this is your last interview, because once you get to South Carolina and you belong to the Gamecocks officially, you go into the freshman cone of silence for a year. So we bid you adieu. We'll have to watch you from afar.
Well, I appreciate everything you've done for me. You guys have been there from step one, even when I wasn't committed, and it's been a fun ride, and I appreciate everything, guys.
We'll talk to you in about 2 years.
Yeah, good luck Saturday. Light it up for everybody who's rooting for the Gamecocks and for you. And then at some point in time, we'll talk to you, but we'll see you here in Columbia once you get on the field.
Absolutely. I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Maybe like 1 year from this March, basically.
I mean, like, that's it from the media standpoint, because he doesn't – freshmen don't talk after games either, even if they are –
that is correct.
The game winner, which is kind of sad. I mean, if this guy plays in a game and throws for 350 and 4 touchdowns, you can't talk to him.
Just get an interpreter.
It's okay. We can ask his coordinator about it. Oh, wait.
No, you can't do that either.
Or we can ask his position coach about it. Oh, wait.
No, you can't do that either.
All right. I tell you what,
was that a shot? I'm
that
sorry.
Was a shot.
Yeah, you were. Yeah, we got a good one going on in Spartanburg. I wish I was there. Wofford was up by 14 at one point. Now it's at the half, 47-41 at the half.
Good ball game.
So the Citadel is right there.
All right, let's welcome in the money coach Fran Halloran here to a Sports Talk. Sorry, we had to shave. Like the stock market, your time is up, your time is down. Today, it's a little bit down. I'm sorry. We apologize.
No, that's quite all right, guys. I appreciate you having me any Thursday night, even for a couple of minutes. And that's a great interview with Helinski. That young man is going to be really good for the Gamecocks in the future. That's a great get from Coach Muschamp and his staff. No doubt about it.
See no reason why it won't be. What's on your mind, money-wise and sports-wise?
Well, guys, I'm always looking at the numbers around things, and I was looking at a lot of things today, and something really struck me when I started looking into the college football national championship game and the payouts and the league payouts, and it led me down a path to look at the coaches. And I really wanted to take a look tonight for just a minute at what Coach Swinney and what Coach Saban are making. Because from a business standpoint, I've said this many times, college football is just, the AAA, if you will, for the NFL. And more than ever, this is proven true when you start looking at the money these coaches are making. It is absolutely astronomical. Let me just give you a couple of figures. First of all, just because Coach Saban and Coach Swinney have made it to the national championship game, Coach Saban has already made a bonus of $700,000, and Coach Swinney has already made $600,000 because they have some clauses in their contract that say if you make it to the conference title game, you get $50,000 or $75,000 in savings pay in Coach Saban's position, $150,000 if you win a playoff appearance, $200,000, a semifinals win, $200,000. So Coach Saban has already made $700,000. Coach Swinney will make he's made $6,000. If Alabama wins, Coach Saban collects an extra $400,000. If Clemson wins, Coach Swinney, he collects an additional $250,000. So obviously they want to win for the glory of the game, but my goodness, there is incentive after incentive after incentive for these men to put a fantastic product on the field because there is a lot of money on the line in this game for these two coaches. This doesn't even include the $6.75 million average salary that Dabo is getting through 2024. A little higher this year, but it averages out to about 6.75 over the years to 2024. Of course, Coach Saban, he's making $91 million over 12 years, or about $7.6 million a year. These are absolutely astronomical numbers when you get right down to it, and it further drives home the point I try to make very often. College football is a business, and it is a big business. Billions and billions and billions of dollars are passing through college football every single year while we just enjoy the game.
Well, let me just predict this. Let me predict this, too. What's January 7th, right? I predict by the end of next week, there'll be an announcement from Clemson, or maybe within 2 weeks. No, maybe by the end of next week, of a contract extension and a raise for head coach Dabo Swinney.
And it will coincide with the same thing happening for Coach Saban.
He already needs an addition on that brand new house of his in Central,
and then
right?
Compare their salaries with the gross national product of some nations.
But you know what? Hey, none of their people are complaining, Coach. None.
No.
There ain't a single Roll Tide fan or a single All-In fan who cares, as long as they're getting them to the big dance.
And contrary to what Dabo says, he's on the 18 bus. He ain't on the bus with the rest of y'all anymore.
He's not on Roy. Hey, thank you.
Right.
Thank you so much. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you next week.
Yes, sir, guys. Take care.
It shows you that every one of these college football programs, all you need to do is build a slide.
That helps. Anything that gives you an edge in recruiting will get it done.
Of course, the South Carolina fans will say, what about Osterine? Hey, there you go. See, there you go. I play both sides, Willie P.
Wow.
Can't let it go, can you? Can't let it go. Hey, we appreciate it. Enjoyed the night. See you tomorrow night here on Sports Talk.